Hi everyone, hope you're keeping well. I'm here today to do my call for support document for my Stroke Story. I've come up with the tagline, providing the narrative for change. So I will explain that a bit more within the document just to give a bit more insight into the reasons why I chose that and the business model behind it. So a bit about the content of the document. So I'll go through the elevator pitch. I'll explain what is my Stroke Story and the history behind the project, how we work as an organisation, partners and associations, and the business model behind it, and how you can help. So the elevator pitch is My Stroke Story is an online community whereby stroke survivors and families can share their unique experiences. I'll give you a brief information about myself. So I'm a marketer with over 4 years experience of campaign management and analytics. So I work for massive brands, so like Air France KLM, whereby I'm responsible for half of it has been to manage multi-million pound awareness and consideration campaigns across the UK and Ireland. I've also been involved with creating content for airports to gain support for campaigns and also awareness about the product and brand. And also, my main role at the moment is generating insights from data from multiple sources, whether that's from data gathered from head office or even from external sources like travel organisations, BBC News, and just generate insights that create better campaign management for future advertising campaigns. But also my spare time, I really enjoy learning. So I'm a massive fan of World War II. This is because there's so many stories to share. There is so much iteration with product design, and it was all about empowerment. And I just love hearing stories because it provides an insight into data of how things can be happen now. It's all about change. It was quick that iteration, like for example, looking at how tanks are made or even like airplanes, they're so quick. But it's all about resources and about providing insights into creating better change. I also write content for my own website, and I do a lot of presenting for an organisation called the London Java Community, ladies um, lady speaking group. So I do talks on personal development in terms of breaking down how to improve speech, how to look at career development, and then also I'm looking into going to user experience and design. So that's more about like looking at research and finding out more about how the customer thinks. So all these are related to the fact that I love doing research, I love learning, I like creating insights to and creating better products and services for customers. So, what is My Stroke Story? My Stroke Story is a user generated content platform to share experiences and insights from stroke survivors and families to highlight that everyone's journey is unique. This gives them a chance to have an identity and voice to others and wider community about their situation. My Stroke Story will be available on the following platforms. So, My Stroke Story website, social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook, and partner websites like the Stroke Association UK. So, give a brief history about my project. So, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to myself. So, I'm originally from Bournemouth in Dorset, so in the south of England. I come from a very nuclear family. So, my mum, my dad, and my brother, myself. We've actually, apart from myself, we've actually never moved from the area. So, we're a pretty close knit family. However, during May 2019, I can actually name the date. It was the day of the FA Cup final against Manchester City and Watford. The reason why I know this is because my dad and I share a passion for football. However, during that day, we had to call an ambulance as my dad we didn't know what it was. He was ill. He was white, he was literally lifeless. So that day took him to hospital, and we found out about 2 days later that my dad had a TIA, which is accumulated as a mini stroke. However, since then he's actually had another stroke, but actually it's been a more of a full-blown stroke rather than a TIA. A TIA is only supposed to be small, but however this went into a full-blown stroke. So he's found it, particularly now that COVID's happened, that there is literally hardly any awareness about stroke. There is adverts saying about the fast, but actually life after that, and also life, particularly for my mum. If I'll be honest, my mum is retired, and them two should be having the time of their life at the moment, and regardless of whether the pandemic's happening, and they're unable to live the life they want to. So I go to a lot of talks based on stroke to find out a bit more about the situation, to find out a bit more about how I can help personally. Um, but every time that I try to deliver that back to my dad in particular, he will always answer, "Well, that's not my story." And that kind of got me thinking, the fact that he's right, because there is so much drummed in that a stroke has to be a certain way. You have to have a certain lifestyle, you have to have this certain time of recovery. It's about the individual, and that's what's lacking within this sort of situation. And that's born out of my frustration, the fact that stroke survivors and families and voices aren't heard, it's ignored. And it's kind of important that this needs to be more aware and also talks about more, because stroke is it's the fourth biggest killer in the UK, yet it's been ignored by health organisations. It's not really researched that much. It's hardly ever talked about. And unlike something like heart or there's nothing physical to present what stroke is. It's just a clot in the brain. But like my dad's situation, they never found the clot. And for him, it's frustrating because there is no help and you feel alone and you feel like you're not listened to. And this is why I want to do it, because I want to improve the welfare and I want to improve the health, but not just for my dad's sake, but for my mum and communities like this. So how we work. So as I said in the first slide, My Stroke Story is an online community focused around user-generated content, or UGC, curated by stroke survivors and families. So it would be them; they'll be able to create their own blog posts and access it. So the plan is to create the website, or looking at Facebook or Instagram or social media, whereby there'll be a feature to create your content and upload it. The content will be pretty much uploaded the way it should be, but it will be edited in terms of trying to get it to brand guidelines. So the project was based on the following formats. So we look at diary entries in terms of having a couple of days to give somebody an insight into the day-to-day life of what a stroke survivor goes through, or stroke community or family member. There'll be a snapshot into a particular issue or achievement. So, for example, somebody might to do with rehabilitation. It could be about understanding balance. It could be just about health and fitness in general, or personal story before and after a stroke, because these stories need to be shared in terms of giving an insight into what it's about and actually causing empathy for people who are going to read this and think, gosh, I didn't know it was like that, or I can relate to this. It gives people a different snapshot and insight into each person's story. So I've also focused on how My Stroke Story will help. So we will be looking to help into the following issues. So improve awareness about the impacts of stroke on communities through cause awareness campaigns on social media. Improving support for unexpected carers through campaigns. So try and do some like research, education, and just general providing insights into other users that might be interested within this project. And generate education and insights into improving products and services for the stroke community. Now, myself going into user research and design, this is something that's not very been considered that much. Accessibility as a subject for online and offline is slowly being considered, but for a very wider group. So this project is also aimed at helping accessibility for these groups to improve these products and services. So I've kind of gone through the brand image. So the brand image or value proposition is creating a unique snapshot of stories through stroke survivors and families through blog and social media posts, highlighting the impact on their life. My Stroke Story invokes a tone of voice for the following. So it's about caring, it's about supportive, it's about being knowledgeable, it's being personal, and it's being emotive. So who my Stroke Story is aimed at. So there's two types of I suppose user groups that's going to be aimed at my Stroke Story. So the beneficiaries is going to be about my stroke survivors, families, carers, and communities and organisations. These are the people who want to share their stories and be involved and want to highlight their impact as being, they're getting heard. So they're the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to benefit from this. However, the customers is going to be completely different for me. So for me, the customers are going to be governments and policymakers, and non-government organisations and organisations affected by stroke who are looking to improve their products and service accessibility. So the reason why I've gone for governments and policymakers is because these people need to be heard, and there needs to be so much change in terms of the way that stroke survivors and families are treated, particularly at the moment during COVID, where it's just services have been ignored and they're expected to go into a certain way. So, for example, my parents, particularly my dad, when he used to go for rehabilitations, and it gave him so much courage. It gave him that community feel that he was actually improving. But now everything's forced online. Not a lot of people are confident with being online. They're not confident doing Zoom calls. They're not confident doing rehabilitation online, particularly with the old generation who's affected by strokes. They still need that person-to-person support. So this is the reason why I kind of wanted them to be the beneficiaries, and actually government and policymakers and NGOs to realise actually your products aren't matching what people need right now. And they need to listen and understanding how they can impact change through these stories. So the revenue model, I kind of made a 4-stage process in terms of how the business will generate money. So I put about content first. So content is start with is not going to be generating an income per se, but it's going to be looking at in the future in terms of creating revenue through donations, through affiliations with products that can be related back to my stroke stories, and also probably advertising revenue. And then I want to move on to, I suppose, where I come from in terms of specialist subjects. So for me, I like gathering user research and insights. So whether that's through ethnographic research in terms of looking at diary studies of how people act and creating user personas for businesses, or looking at user research and bringing about insights and hypotheses of how to improve the customer journey for particular stroke stories and families. So kind of generating income in terms of data management and insights. The next one is going to be about campaigns. So campaigns is more or less about campaigning for change. So looking at how to generate a successful campaign about a particular area within stroke, but using stories to generate the change. And then the final one is going to be about workshops and guides. So through the user research and campaigns and content, we can create content based on creating guides, workshops, and educational products either online or in person, based on looking at how a particular subject or a particular need that needs to be delivered to a wider generation or a wider delegate, rather than just, I mean, it could be trade for governments, it could be policy for businesses in terms of understanding about accessibility for stroke survivors. It could be guides in terms of what can I go through. But these guides can be created from the user-generated content provided by the users, by the beneficiaries. So partners and associations, we work with the following organisations: so Stroke Wales, Stroke Association UK, Creative Conscious, and Eileen Kelly, who is an internet chef who actually ended up having a stroke a couple of years ago. And she documents her story online and is quite an influencer within sort of the stroke community in that aspect. So how you can help? Well, at the moment, the whole project is based on creating awareness and testing if the product works. So we are currently looking for support with the following. So stroke survivors and family stories. So again, this could be in a diary format. It could be before and after stories. It could be looking at particular insights into either a problem they've had or looking at achievement they've had since having a stroke, or looking at carers, and also contacts with organisations for potential future projects and accessibility dealing with stroke. So it could be looking at web redesign, it could be about understanding how stroke survivors and families interact with, say, for example, like products like Zoom. So it's all about so research and insights through content. So thank you very much for listening. I've now set up my Facebook and Instagram. So it's my Stroke Story and my Stroke Story for Facebook. And I've just got the URL today for mystrokestory.co.uk. So I'll be looking up to set up the website within the next couple of days. I forgot to put at the end of this how you can reach out to me. So the best way to reach out to me for help and guidance would be via my email, which is sam_jane, which is JAYNE @gmx.co.uk. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope I've inspired you with my stroke stories.